Hello everyone, and welcome to the latest in my video series about Duelyst, produced in partnership with Counterplay Games. Today I want to talk about another one of the decks that I played in the Contest of Grandmaster tournament. It is the Vanar Aggro deck, built around Kara Winterblade. So let's jump right in. Here is the deck on your screen. Like I mentioned, we are built around Kara Winterblade. This deck really utilizes Kara's Bloodborne spell to its fullest. The whole idea behind this deck is that it is able to be an aggressive deck that has a lot of cheap, efficient minions, but it can also have a lot of significant threat late in the game because with Kara's Bloodborne spell, you can just pump all of these small minions up and have a lot of impact even later on. So cards that might otherwise have pretty substantial cost for their inclusion, like Ephemeral Shroud, for instance, as utility for dispelling things, can actually end up being like a very real threat late in the game. Even a single activation of Kara's Bloodborne spell gives Ephemeral Shroud 3 health, which means that it's able to get 2 attacks naturally on a general, which is a pretty huge deal. The rest of the deck is kind of utility cards that can deal with big minions, Aspect of the Fox, Chromatic Cold. Dispels, I think, are particularly good right now, especially with the popularity of aggressive Vitruvian decks with Scion's Second Wish. Being able to remove buffs and deal damage to opposing minions makes Chromatic Cold fairly great, and Ephemeral Shroud, having that ability connected to a body that gets pumped by Kara's ability, is also quite good. Just a variety, as we see going down the list, variety of just efficient minions for their normal cost. One of the fairly key cards, and the only legendary in the deck, is Spelljammer. Spelljammer allows you to just continue to fill your hand up with threats that you can buff with Kara's ability. So not only do you have a constant string of minions coming, but you're able to keep buffing all of them, which allows you to have a very, very powerful late game. Some unusual cards in the deck include the Arctic Displacer we see here. A 10-4 airdrop might not necessarily be particularly exciting for 5, but when you can pump that up and make it more difficult for your opponent to easily kill, and you have the threat of Spirit of the Wild, which reactivates all friendly minions on your opponent's starting side of the battlefield, it can give you incredible burst potential out of nowhere. If your opponent's on their side of the board, you have the 9-mana combo of a potentially pumped Displacer and Spirit of the Wild to do a ton of damage no matter where they are. Also, Ash Mephant is a card that you very rarely see in constructed decks in Duelyst, but with Kara's Bloodborne spell, you can get Ash Mephant up to 4, even 5 or 6 attack, and making 3 copies of that is definitely worth 5 mana. Similarly, you have the burst potential of Saber-Spine Tiger and the defensive potential of Primus Shieldmaster, both of which get significantly buffed by the Bloodborne spell for Kara. So let's jump into a game and see how this runs. Here we go. And we're playing against Magmar. Take a look at our opening hand. This is pretty bad. We are definitely interested in finding early minions to play. I'm going to go ahead and replace a Dancing Blades. We actually replace both Dancing Blades. Mephit's nice to have in our opening hand because we can start getting it pumped up with Kinetic Surge. So let's just go ahead and replace both of these. So we don't have any 2s, but we do have a Spelljammer. And Spelljammer is excellent in this deck, as mentioned in the overview, and our opponent did not have an early play, so that's pretty good for us. I'm just going to go ahead and move forward. I think I'm actually going to keep my entire hand right now. I'm going to play a Spelljammer right here, I think. So I want to be able to ensure that I am able to move on to one of these next turn. We could place it here, which would prevent our opponent from taking the Mana Spring tile, but I think that we'd rather have access to 2. So I'm going to just play this Spelljammer right here and end my turn. Oh, he's getting a natural selection by Spelljammer. Well, we still got the free card off of it, which is nice. And actually, it looks like our opponent won't be able to use any of the Mana Spring tiles at all, which is excellent. If he moves straight forward, it's actually great for us. Yeah, he's going to move there. Because if he had moved straight forward, we actually could have taken this and then provoked him with Shieldmaster so that he couldn't actually access any of them next turn. We still actually have that option. Can go ahead and replace an Aspect of the Fox. I don't really want 2 of them. I'm going to move here, and I'm going to play Shield Master on the Mana Spring tile. This prevents my opponent from moving until he actually kills this, which means it's very unlikely he can actually reach the other Mana Spring tiles. So now this is where Kara really turns on, now that our Bloodborne spell. Alright, he's going to go ahead and Agmorph it. He's going to use all of his mana, though. So again, we still have access to the tile, and our opponent does not. So we're going to move on to this to take the Mana Spring tile. We're going to replace... I don't think we actually replace anything. We could replace one of our spells. I can see replacing Cryogenesis, actually. Because our opponent so far has played like heavily controlling. Cryogenesis may very well not kill much in our opponent's deck. It does kill Mankator Warbeast, which is fairly important. But we can also sort of just build some fairly strong things. We'll go ahead and replace this because we're going to use Kinetic Surge, and we want to have as many minions in our hand as possible when we use Kinetic Surge. So we're going to do this, and that was actually a great draw. Not that we're going to use it right now, but we want to, just increase the density of minions in our hand. Then I get to play Primus Shieldmaster, which at 4 attack is now actually in pretty good position to stop my opponent from killing with Plasma Storm. That's part of the reason I didn't play Ash Method. It's only at 3 attack, and I'm playing against a Magmar deck, which does potentially have Plasma Storm, which would be fairly disastrous to get all of our Ash Method's Plasma Storm. We can just wait a little bit and increase their attack to 4, so we have a much stronger board. And a Spirit Harvester. Alright. I could just go ahead and Aspect of the Foxit. Kill it with this. Move here and play a Cloaker. I want to move here so I can potentially access this just by moving next turn. I could just attack it and Blood Tier it. I think we actually just replace this Hearth Sister, see if we find something better. Alright, another Cloaker. I don't necessarily want to play both Cloakers because only one of them's going to be buffed, but probably fine. Because next turn we're likely going to want to Ash Method. If we can take this and then Ash Method and Blood Tier with 3 health, that's very powerful. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to kill this. I'm actually playing these specifically in places where if he plays a Mankator Warbeast, he actually can only hit this. There's nowhere he can play a Warbeast that he can actually hit all of my guys because this guy has Provoke. He can only play Warbeast in these 2 locations. It's very important to play around Frenzy against at least Claws. All right. And Scale up, speaking of Frenzy. Well, wasn't playing around that one. That was fairly brutal. Okay. Well, we can break that next turn with attack of something and then also a Blood Tier. So we're going to go ahead and Kinetic Surge. I actually need to walk up to get 8 total mana. So I can't attack him with my General. I should just basically throw away my Crystal Cloaker, which I think is fine. We actually don't necessarily need that mana. We can actually just play these if we want. Though given that our opponent is playing Claws, our opponent is likely playing a fairly burst-focused deck. So we may actually not want to use our General to attack our opponent and take 6. We may just want to throw away our Cloaker. So I think I'm going to do that. In which case I could walk up here and get 7 mana, but I don't have use for that right now. So I'm going to keep the Chromatic Cold. Maybe that's actually incorrect for me to be keeping the Chromatic Cold at this point, but I'm gonna attack my opponent. We have Chromatic Cold is reasonable for burn purposes. These guys only this guy won't be killed by just a Warbeast. feel like Bonded Life Forces here. We're not dead, so it's one of the funny cards you have to play around against aggressive Magmar decks. We have currently 10 damage on board. We're 2 off lethal next turn with just Chromatic Cold, so he doesn't move. Earth Sphere, okay. Well, if he's playing reactively, that's very good for us. Yep, overload. Gonna punch this guy to death. He's gonna punch me. Yeah, he's gonna punch me, okay. We're going to replace this cryo. Well, I kind of want to, if he has Iridium Scale, I don't want to be able to kill a bunch of things at once. Alright, we're going to go here. This will heal me. I guess I'm going to play this here. It's a weird place because, ooh, well, now if I'd had that last turn, that would have been great. He can overload, he can like Iridium Scale, move here, attack, kill both of these for 4 damage, but then this can move down, attack him, Spirit of the Wild, attack him, and overload. Alright. Okay, this does mean that he's able to run away from Natural Selection. Okay. He's still currently dead to my Displacer, Duelyst. Okay, so he's dead. We get to Chromatic Cold this, so it will no longer give him a 0/10, and then this can kill this. This guy just walks over and kills him. So nothing fancy with Spirit of the Wild there, since he was going to actually, he wouldn't be able to survive multiple attacks in the opposing general anyway. But that sort of just, shows, I think, some of the dynamics of using the powerful buffed minions, like specifically that Ash Mephit, which generated 3 4/5s for 5 mana, which is pretty powerful, and all because of Kara's Bloodborne spell. So that is it for the video this week. I'm going to come back next time with a few more games with this deck to show you guys a little bit deeper look at how it plays. Let me know what other decks you might want to see me do deck techs for in the comments, and I'll see you next time.